The 2024-25 Premier League campaign is on the horizon. In preparation, we're previewing every single team and discussing how they'll shape up over the next campaign. We take a look at the transfer business conducted by the teams so far and offer suggestions of who else they should move for before the season gets started. Today is our final preview and it's time to talk about Wolverhampton Wanderers. Last season, a debut campaign for Gary O'Neill at the Molineux, and he did very, very well. This season, we talk about how they may look to build on that. We also look at how they replace key players like Max Kilman and Pedro Neto, and we discuss whether they may be drawn into a relegation battle or whether they could push up the table. This is our 2024-25 season preview for Wolves. Alright, let's talk about Wolves then, our final preview for the 24-25 season. We'd like to start these by going back through last season, so let's talk about 2023-24 for Wolves. Finished 14th in the Premier League. It wasn't too bad. I think given the start of the season, with Lopetegui leaving a week before the campaign, I think they'd take 14th in those circumstances.
Yeah, definitely so. I think, as you say, Lopetegui leaving so close to the campaign starting is a very hard thing to deal with as a board, as owners, as a football team. I think bringing Gary O'Neill was a brilliant appointment. Gary O'Neill was a really good manager. He did really well at Bournemouth and he brought that into this Wolves side. And I think he's got the potential, definitely, to carry Wolves further up than 14th. But as you say, 14th, to come in and get 14th, you know, the way that Gary O'Neill did, I think it was a really good season for Wolves.
Yeah, I think he's really good at coaching defensively. I do think in attacking areas, at times they rely a little bit too heavily on individuals. When you've got players like Matthias Cunha, like Hee-Chan Hwang, they're not the worst players to be relying on.
Yeah.
So actually, I don't think that's too bad. But yeah, Wolves this summer, though, they've lost some big players. They've got some signings to make. Let's talk about it. Because outgoings, probably, or arguably, their two best players on paper. I think, like, Cunha is fantastic. Yeah. So you could argue he's up there, and Hwang as well. But Max Kilman, we'll talk about first, leaving for West Ham for 38 million. This is a big loss in their backline.
Yeah, it is. He is a very, very good centre-half, and we spoke about him yesterday for West Ham. I think it's a really good signing, but for Wolves, he is going to be hard to replace. It is a nice fee, £38 million. It's kind of the value you would expect for a Premier League English young centre-half, but that is also hard to come by. He's a very good young centre-half. It is a big loss for Wolves, and you know they need to replace him with a fitting replacement.
Well, it's interesting, so obviously we expect them to go from a 3-back to a 4-back this season. That's been widely reported by a lot of reputable news outlets. So we're going to be interested to see how they handle that shift, and we'll probably talk more about that when we get to the squad screen. But I think they may be okay without signing someone, but I think they will look potentially at what's available, look at some replacement options. And then the other sale, Pedro Neto to Chelsea for 53 million. The big thing about this Neto sale is obviously he is a fantastic player. I think he's a really high quality player, very good winger. But for Wolves, this isn't actually a huge loss in the sense he didn't play that much last season. He was injured for most of last campaign.
Yeah, it was 20 odd starts, I think. 20, which when you consider how many games there are in a campaign now, he has missed quite a bit there.
Yeah.
The numbers were okay. He had a decent season, and he is a good player. And when he is fit, he can perform to a very high level. You know, some of the stuff he can do is absolutely brilliant. But 53 million for a player that only played 20-25 games last season, I think that is a decent bit of business, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and for those 20 games, I don't think he was fully fit in a lot of them. That's why his numbers were probably quite low compared to what we would expect from Pedro Neto. So we know of his quality. I think for Wolves, getting £50 million for a player who can't really have any consistency because he can't stay consistently fit, I don't think that's a bad deal at all. And I think they'll be able to replace him quite adequately. So I think, you look at those two deals, £90 million raised from two transfers, a lot of money to go and spend. They haven't really spent any of it yet. And it does feel like the same issue they had under Lopetegui, where Lopetegui basically he quit because they weren't giving him anything to work with. He couldn't go and make transfers. The same thing seems to be happening to Gary O'Neill, and they've got to give him the ability to go and make transfers.
Yeah, I mean, the season starts in 5 days. They've bought in, as you said, they've made a big profit there of 90 million. And we haven't really seen any of that spent, to be completely honest. That would be a big waste. You know, or you've lost good, high quality players, but that you're also just letting big money just sit around and not be used to help the team.
It's all given to Jorge Mendes, of course. Wow. Let's talk about incomings, though. The first of which is Tommy Doyle, Manchester City, £7 million. This won't feel like a new signing because he was here last season on a loan. I think he's a very talented player. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but for £7 million to bring in a rotation option, it's quite a good signing.
Yeah, it's a decent deal, and for a player that knows the team, knows the squad, only 7 million, it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And then Rodrigo Gomez coming in from Braga. Now, this one has a lot more to talk about. £13 million for a player who is relatively unproven. Obviously, he's not played Premier League football before, so we don't really know how he's going to come in and handle that adjustment. And I don't think even he knows his best position, because he has played as a right wing back, a left wing back, a right back, a left midfielder, and a left winger. And Wolves might try and play him on the right wing. So who knows what's going to happen there. I think he's better on the left flank. And so that does open up a question, because right flank is definitely where they need players. But is he better than Daniel Podence? Probably. So in that regard, I think he's a nice option. And if they do want to play Hwang in a central area this season, especially with Cunha out, and at least until for the first few matches, Cunha's just not available. So they may play Hwang centrally, Rodrigo can come in and play on that left wing. So I think he does look really good, this Rodrigo Gomez guy. I'll be honest, I've not watched enough of him to be able to, create a full judgment. But from the bits I have seen and what I've read, he does look like an exciting player. It is another Portuguese talent. That is what Wolves do. But I think he's a good signing.
Yeah, relatively. I think, hope he performs, hope he does well. I think, and they'll hope to be able to find his strongest position very quickly. The last thing you want to do is come into the Premier League and he has to spend, quite a few games working out where he performs best. So hopefully they can crack that relatively quickly. And if they can, he can be a very good player for Wolves.
Yeah, and I think if they did try and use him on that right wing, it's obviously not a position he's played before, but considering he can play left wing, and considering the skills are going to be fairly transferable from right wing back to right wing, because it's going to be that same... If he was playing on the right wing because he's right-footed, it's going to be that out-and-out winger type role. So you're going to the byline, you're trying to look for crosses. That's quite similar to what you'd expect from a right wing back. So I think in that regard, the position would be quite similar. And then you'd have someone creating chances for those central strikers, so that could be a nice touch. And then you've got Jørgen Strand Larsen coming in on loan from Celta Vigo. I find this transfer really interesting, because they obviously don't own him permanently.
No.
So, is he going to be prioritised over other strikers? Possibly. He looks to be their best forward, but he's not. I don't get it. I don't get why they haven't gone out and bought a striker. Striker's the position they need. And the issue is now, if they do go and invest that netto money into a new striker, well, this Strand Larsen kid who's just been promised first team football for Wolves is suddenly looking at a rotation option.
Yeah.
And he won't be happy with that. And Celta Vigo won't be happy with that. And suddenly there's a bit of discontent there. So they've shoehorned themselves in here by acting early. I'm not sure on him. I think he's a decent enough player. He's looked okay in pre-season by all accounts. But, will he be able to adapt to the Premier League? They've got to rely on the 19-year-old Danish kid coming in and just instantly performing. For me, it's a big gamble. Obviously, Cunha could play that striker role. They have got other strikers still at the club as well. So it's not like it's not like he's their only option. But to bring him in as a starter, it feels like a big gamble.
It is. It's one of those where it pays off and he has a really good season, then it's going to be a really good breakthrough year for him and he's going to deliver for Wolves. But if it doesn't, then the goals could dry up very quickly, and that is a big problem in the Premier League. If you're not scoring goals, if your main striker isn't finding the back of the net often enough, it can cost you. As you say, obviously there are other players that can come in and lead the line, and I think they would do that if things weren't working out. But if Larsen's coming in from the beginning, he's got to adapt very quickly.
Yeah, and then the final signing is one I think geared more towards the future, but this is a fantastic addition. It's Pedro Lima coming in from Sport Recife. So this is a side in the second tier in Brazil, and this is a player touted with a move to Chelsea. This deal was supposed to be very close, believed to be very close. And actually, I liked the announcement video where Wolves took the piss out of Chelsea by inputting... Fabrizio Romano tweeted, this deal was close, and there was a graphic of Lima in a Chelsea shirt, and they had that up on the screen as Lima's signing his contract. It pans to him signing his contract. Really admired that shithousery. This is a really good coup, very good coup.
Yeah.
8.5 million for a very promising young Brazilian right back. I think it's really interesting to see whether he can come in and make a real difference.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he adds to the depth at right back there is for Wolves. I'll be intrigued to see how the minutes are shared around at that right back spot.
I don't think he'll have a whole lot of first team football this season, though.
Well, I mean, it's a difficult one. I get that he could be a very, very good player. I always find it weird. I think 8.5 million is quite a lot to spend on a player that isn't going to play in your first team, but it is all about that future projection. It is all about looking towards the future and seeing that talent. Let's just hope he acts on it for 8.5 million, and he could be a very, very good player in the next few years.
Yeah, I think at worst though, you're going to be able to get a similar fee for him
Potentially.
Obviously, unless he completely fails, which is 8.5 million, which isn't a huge amount of money for a Premier League club.
No.
And when you weigh up that risk versus reward, this guy could potentially be a fantastic right back, someone that you sell to Man City for 80 million. So they've got to consider that as that option. I think the risk is very minimal compared to the potential reward. So really good signing in that regard. Let's go on over to the squad screen then, so we can analyse how this Wolves side is going to look and maybe what areas they could do with improvements. And we'll start in goal. Jose Sarr, really good shot stopper.
Yeah.
I think he's been a fairly sort of reliable goalkeeper for a couple of years now. I think there were some doubts when he first came in whether he'd be able to replace Rui Patricio, but he's done that very adequately.
Yeah.
And then Bentley as a backup is a fine backup goalkeeper. I did see they were linked with Sam Johnston, which
that would be good.
Is interesting because does he start over Sarr?
Oh,
it's a really difficult
that
question.
Is a good question.
I think they're both very good goalkeepers. So I'm not really. I don't really understand that link unless Sarr is going to become a rotation option. But then why would he stick around?
Exactly.
It's a weird one for me, Sam Johnston being linked. But if that happens, fair enough. I don't get why he'd leave Palace to be a bench goalkeeper. So surely he comes in and starts. But then what happens with Sarr? Don't really understand that one.
Yeah.
Could be a decent goalkeeper. Back four then, we'll start a right back. Nelson Semedo, still fairly decent, to be fair.
Yeah, played loads. I think he played mostly every game last season.
Most of the minutes last season. Obviously, Matt Doherty coming back in from Tottenham. Doherty, for me, is just not a right back. He's a fantastic right wing back, and he can do a job at right back. But I don't think he is... He's not that great. He'll do a job, and I understand Wolves fans probably adore him, because obviously he played there for so long, and now he's come back, and he is still an okay player, but I don't think he is necessarily a right back. I think he's much better higher up the field. And then you've got Keanu Hoover as well, who... What's happened with him? I think injuries have plagued him since he's joined from Liverpool. But yeah, he was always a really highly rated young talent at Liverpool, moved across to Wolves for a bit of money, and was just not really materialised. His career hasn't really gone anywhere since. So they may look to sell him. Yeah. And then Pedro Lima, of course, that young right back coming in. Obviously, if he is in the development squad, if he is part of the youth setup this season, then you've got three right backs there. That's fine. If you're looking to give Lima first team minutes, I think moving on, Hoover will probably make a lot of sense. And then centre half options. Now, obviously, without Max Kilman, they are a little bit light here, but they are switching from a 3-back to a 4-back, meaning you don't need as many centre halves.
Yeah.
So 4 centre halves could cover it. At right centre half, you've got Dawson, you've got Santiago Bueno. At left centre half, you've got Totti Gomez, you've got Mosquera. Now, I initially had some reservations about this, because I'm not sure Dawson Premier League 2024. He's still doing a good job though, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think Totti Gomez is really solid, and some Mosquera is someone I had a few doubts about, but he had a really strong season last season with Valencia, and from all reports in pre-season he's looked really good. So I think you're probably okay there. If there is an option out there, I think they should go and act on that.
Yeah,
but I don't really see who they go for right now, unless they go for Trevor Chalobah, but I think Chelsea are going to demand 25, 30 million pounds, and I don't think it's a huge issue for Wolves, that centre-half position. So unless something becomes available suddenly, I don't think it's an issue to go and press.
No.
Yeah, again, as I say, if there's something available, they should go and sign them. If not, I think they'll be okay there. At left-back, they've got Aït-Nouri and Hugo Bueno. Unless Bueno leaves, which there have been rumours, then I don't think they'll look at a left-back this window. Keanu Hoover, I think, is able to do a job on both sides, so if they want to bring him back into the first team fold, he could definitely do a job there. Aït-Nouri, really good. Really good attacking fullback. So I think that this suits what Wolves want to do very nicely, having Aït-Nouri and Semedo, really good fullbacks there. And Aït-Nouri played as a left midfielder for a bit of last season as well, I believe. So if they were to go, because they looked at going 4-4-2 at the end of the season, it didn't really work. They lost a lot of games at the back end of last season, but yeah, I think that is it's an option they could look to explore, playing Aït-Nouri higher. But I think in this system, he'll definitely be playing as that left back. Yeah, and looking to push forwards. Looking into midfield, then I think they've actually got one of the strongest midfielders out there. I really highly rate Mario Lemina. I think he was underrated at Southampton and sort of discarded a bit too early there. He's come in under O'Neill at Wolves, or he was there under Lopetegui as well, to be fair. But I think O'Neill was where he's done his best work so far. Last season, he just looked really solid as that defensive midfielder, as that defensive linchpin in this side. And alongside João Gomez in that double pivot, who, again, one of the strongest defensive midfielders in the league. I think they're really talented players. You throw into that mix, you've got Traoré, who played a bit last season. I think he'll continue to be involved this season. You've got Jean-Ric Bellegarde, who I rate really highly. I think his ability to carry that ball outball forwards is really strong. We saw that in the French league for Strasbourg, and if he continues to bring that into his game, I think that's really nice. I mean, we've put this as a 4-2-3-1, but if you want to play Cunha as that striker, this could easily be a 4-3-3, and you bring Bellegarde in there. I don't think you sacrifice too much, because Cunha keeps your high up the field, so you get that width, and then you can play Bellegarde making those forward runs. So I think you're right in that regard. And then obviously Tommy Doyle is another option. So they've got a lot of midfield options in there. I think if they are going to look to play a 4-2-3-1, they might look at bringing in an attacking midfielder. So we're going to talk about options there as well, because in attacking midfield they've only got Cunha, and obviously Hwang can play there, but it does create a bit of an issue, because if Cunha's out to start the season, so suddenly Hwang's having to play there, and you've got Gomez, and then you've only got Gomez and Podence on the left wing, and Podence hasn't looked that great recently. He was out on loan at Olympiacos, I think, last season. So they're a little bit light in those attacking areas. On the right wing, they've only got Sarabia and Chiquinho. Neither of them. I mean, Sarabia's been very good, to be fair. I think there are some doubts, because they want to play very transitional football, Wolves, because O'Neill was very defensive, then you flip the ball around, you go and attack very quickly. And Sarabia is a bit too slow to play that style. I think he's still very talented, and he's a great playmaker off that right wing. But if they are looking to play transitional football, he's not really suited to that. So I think they might look at a right winger as well. And Chiquinho's an okay player. I think he's brilliant. I don't think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think if you can find a player like Sarabia who's got that creativity off the right wing, but is just a little bit quicker, so you can play transitional, but you've still got creativity in there, I think that would work nicely, and Sarabia would still be very good against a number of opposition.
Well, that's the thing. I think he's still a decent player. It's a shame, really, because I think if he can just have a really solid campaign, put up some really good numbers, and link up with what is already some decent players in this Wolves attack. I do find this attack slightly strange. I think Cunha and Hwang can deliver good numbers. I think, as you say, and you can bring in attacking midfielders, bring in a right winger to support it. I think the main thing we're going to touch on is this front marksman. It is do the goals struggle to come with these strikers? I mean, there's a lot of them.
I was going to say, it's crazy how their most stacked position looks like their weakest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible recruitment from Wolves. So let's start at the top of the list. They've just brought in Larson. He's going nowhere. He's in on loan. If he is going to start, there's question marks there. He's unproven at this level, but he's got to be given that opportunity at least for the first few games of the season, especially with Cunha out injured. You're not going to have Cunha there as an option to play up front. Then you've got Sasa Kaledzic, who came in with such promise, spent most of last season out injured, and just didn't really get into the first team. I thought he went out on loan, but I don't think he did.
No,
he just didn't
was
play.
There. I don't know. I thought we'd see more from him.
He was injured for most of it, to be fair. But
I know. But this is the thing. I'm really intrigued. If he can stay fit, maybe he could have a decent season and start firing for Wolves. But we'll see.
Maybe, but it's also interesting how different he is to Larson. They're very different forwards.
Yeah.
So yes, it gives you options, but it also means it's very difficult to rotate them and have the same sort of build up and attacking play. You've got then Goncalo Guedes,
he was a weird one.
They signed him for a lot of money last summer. He obviously then went out on loan, didn't he? From January to the summer, I believe.
To be honest,
so he spent a lot of time.
I just
double check.
I was going to say I don't know. I think there was always a good player in there.
And there still is.
There still is. There definitely still is. And I thought when he came into the Premier League, I thought this is his moment. He's going to play really well. And then nothing really happened, and he didn't. He struggled to get going, and then he really didn't get going, and then we haven't really seen much of it. We haven't seen any of him.
Yeah, so he joined in 2022. That was it. He then went on loan to Benfica for half a season.
So back to Portugal.
Yeah, then he came in from Valencia, obviously. Went on loan to Benfica for half a season. Then in the summer of 23, went back on loan for half a season. In January, he's then gone on loan to Villarreal. And now he's back at Wolves, fighting for his place in the first team. It was reported he's looking to continue to fight for that place. He's still 27. There is time on his side. I think he could still make good on that early promise. Maybe. He's just not really been given the opportunities at Wolves.
No. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Then you've got Fabio Silva, who many people have accused of being a Jorge Mendes money laundering scheme, which... Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look very good. He's never really shown any ability to play football for Wolves. He was very exciting coming through the U Franks out in Portugal, but he's just done nothing in a Wolves shirt, really, that shows he's any good. So I think his heart's in the right place. He always looks like he cares. It's not that. Like, you've got other strikers out there, it just doesn't look like they give a shit. He clearly cares. He's just not that great. He's never really performed. He's never adapted to the Premier League. I just don't know what they're going to do with him, because he came in for decent money. I think it's £20 million, something like that, and he's just not delivered on that. And again, Jorge Mendes, client. It's an interesting one. And then you've got 2 young strikers, and this is why I wouldn't buy a striker for Wolves.
Yeah.
Because you've got coming through, you've got Fraser and you've got Chiwome. I think Chiwome obviously played a few minutes last season. There's a lot of, is he going to break into the first team? He's very exciting. I think from talking to a few Wolves fans, Fraser's actually more highly rated in that youth setup. So potentially we'll see the 2 of them get some minutes this season. I'd like to see them given cup minutes, if not some league minutes. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see. I think Wolves fans would rather see focus put into Fraser and Chiwome than put into trying to bring trying to teach Fabio Silva how to play football. Yeah. Or try and bring Goncalo Guedes back into this setup. So it's interesting to see. I think that hopefully we'll see those young players given some minutes. There's a few midfielders as well, a few young midfielders like Hodge, who might be given a first team opportunity. I don't think he's been loaned out yet. So there's definitely some players that could be given opportunities. So but let's talk positions then, where we might need, where we think Wolves could do with some improvements. I think right wing is definitely one, and then attacking midfield. If you can find someone who can do both, that would be ideal, because that gives you cover with only having to buy one player. Yeah. So let's talk about some options then. The first one I'm going to suggest comes from Villarreal. It's Elias Akamak. He has only been at Villarreal a year. He joined from the Barca Youth Academy. His FBref profile is absolutely ridiculous. Now, it is slightly inflated because he plays as a right midfielder last season, so he goes down a midfielder on FBref, which is annoying that you can't change that. And he would be playing a higher role, and those numbers wouldn't look quite as ridiculous, but they are still really, really strong, especially those numbers at the bottom of the screen that indicate his ability to dribble. Yeah. Because his successful take-ons at 3.43 per 90 ranks in the 99th percentile. His progressive carries are 4.08 per 90, that ranks in the 98th percentile, and touches in the attacking penalty area up at 4.04 per 90, 98th percentile again. So basically he's a very, very strong dribbler, which he's not the quickest player. He is decently quick. He's quicker than Sarabia, but he's not the quickest, but he uses his dribbling ability to go and beat players, and he's very, very good at that. He's very creative, assists 0.14 per 90 with expected assists of 0.15, so you'd expect them to rise with better finishes and better players. So I think he would come in and give you what Sarabia does, with a little bit more pace, a little bit more ability to transition quickly. Yeah. So I think he's a very talented player. He's difficult to prize away because he's only been at Villarreal a season, and I think they'd be very keen to keep him. But if you can go and put in a big bid, he's going to cost at least 25-30 million pounds. Yeah. So it's an expensive one, but I think there's money there for Wolves to go and spend, and he'd be a really nice fit. Yeah, very much so. He's very dangerous, very direct, and I think that is the perfect scenario to have as a winger. You want someone who is going to help you. You know, as soon as you want to go, as soon as you want to get gone, he's going to take that ball and he's just going to run at defenders, and he's going to carry take that from one to the other, and it's a dangerous prospect for defenders. We spoke about it with other wingers, and some of the best wingers in the world is when a player just runs at you and has the ability. As you said, it's not about that raw pace. It's about that ball. The ability of the ball at his feet just to beat players is incredible. Yeah, let's talk other options then, and I'm going to throw out this one because of one man in particular. So Giovanni Reina is the suggestion. Obviously, he has struggled for game time at Dortmund. He went out on loan to Nottingham Forest in the back half of last season, and he looked decent. Yeah, considering he joined halfway through a season, and Forest is a little bit of a mess at times. I think he'd come in and do a good job, and the key moving factor behind this signing is his agent. He's of course a Jorge Mendes talent. So I think that makes it easy to do. I don't think an FBref profile is necessarily indicative of his talent because it's a little bit low. He played very sporadic minutes last season for Nottingham Forest. But what you can take from it is those shot creating actions. 6.20 per 90. Yeah. Now, I know he didn't play loads of minutes, so again, it's a little bit high. And but 96th percentile, really, really strong. In those limited amount of minutes, he was getting a lot of shots away. He was creating shooting opportunities for other players. I think in that regard, he'd be a very good creative player. He can play attack midfield, he can play on the right wing. He gives you lots of options there, so I think that would be a really nice addition. to this Wolves attack.
Yeah, I mean his numbers don't show how good we know he is. If you think of Giovanni Reina, you know the talent that he possesses. You know what kind of player he can be. On his day, he is a very good player. He's a very dangerous player, as it's shown. He loves to get a shot away, and I think that is one of my favourite stats or numbers in players is players who like to shoot. I'm fed up with these players. You get too many players that run into corners or try and get it into the 6-yard box, practically run it into the goal. He's not like that. If he gets an eye for goal and he gets an opportunity, he's gonna have an attempt from range, or he's gonna have a go wherever he is, and that breeds more goals. The more you shoot, the more you score. It's as simple as that. So if he can use his talent, if he could get a big move into the Premier League with Wolves, a fresh start, I really think he could be a good player.
Yeah, he is better at creating opportunities, but he does still get some shots away. Shots total 2.18 per 90. It's only 49th percentile, but with more minutes and more opportunity, he is going to shoot more. He was very good at Borussia Dortmund. It's not really worked out for him there, but I think there is still a chance. There's a very good player. And I think Dortmund would be willing to sell at an okay price, 10, 15 million, maybe 20 million. I think they'd be willing to part with him because it's just not worked.
Yeah.
But I think at Wolves, there's a chance you could kindle that talent and suddenly
very much so.
He can set a blaze. So there's a lot of potential there. It's one where if he doesn't play well, it's going to be a big wage bill to have to shift, and so I can understand the risks there. And obviously you have to pay Jorge Mendes loads of money, but you would get a very quality player if he comes in and performs. So could be very interesting. So I think Wolves looking forward, it's going to be a very difficult season. But then we fought that last year when they didn't really do anything in the window and they lost their manager and they still managed to muddle through. I think Neto and Kilman are big losses, but I don't know. I think they're going to have to... Again, I think they'll be in the relegation fight, but on the fringe of the relegation fight. I don't think they're going to be pushing up. The issue is you look at the clubs around them and they've all strengthened while Wolves seem to have just stagnated a little bit. They've not improved massively. They've brought in some players who aren't really proven Premier League players. If they perform, we can see Wolves go high. If they don't, or if they struggle with injuries again this season, I think Wolves are in trouble of being drawn into that relegation fight deeper than they'd want to be. But I think they'll be on the fringes. Yeah,
I'm expecting a very similar finish to what it was last year, around that 14th area, because they're better than the three coming up. They're better than the other teams that will be down in the dogfight.
Forest.
But, yes, etc. But I think I feel for them a little bit because I think the top 12 is a level where Wolves would have to exceed expectations massively to get into that top 12. That top 12 of the Premier League is such high quality. It is such a struggle to get in there if you're a team like Wolves. So I feel for Wolves because I think they could be a victim of circumstance, really, that top 12 is just of such a high quality, it's going to be very difficult to break into it.
But I don't think they invest enough money.
That is also true.
You look at the teams that were just ahead of them, or even just below them last season. In 15th, it was Everton who had a points deduction. Without that, they'd have been ahead of Wolves.
Yeah.
Brentford in 16th have Ivan Toney out for most of the season. Without that, we'd put them ahead of Wolves potentially. And Forest had a points deduction. Now, that doesn't put them anywhere near Wolves, but it would put them higher in the table. So, I think they've got to be somewhat wary, and they've got to be keeping an eye below them. But if they can keep the points ticking over, I think they've got a very tough start to the season as well. They play Arsenal, Chelsea, Forest, Newcastle, Villa, Liverpool, Brentford, City, and Brighton, Villa. That's a really tough first 10 matches there.
Everyone has to play everyone, but that could put the worry for Wolves is those first 10 games could put them in a really poor position that it impacts the rest of the season.
I do fear they might be in the relegation zone after 10 games, and not because they're bad, but because of the run they've been given.
Yeah.
The board have got to realise that and not be reactionary. Look at Anthony Areola at Bournemouth last season. They didn't win a game for the first 9 matches and they beat Manchester United and they went on to finish ahead of they finished 12th in the league. So I think Wolves have got to be mindful that they're going to have a tough start to the season.
O'Neill knows what he's got to do. He's a very capable manager. He knows how to keep sides in the league. Wolves, if they do struggle to start with, they can't panic because Gary O'Neill will keep them in a healthy position. If they sack him, they could be in trouble.
And if they are if they are in an okay position after that first 10, then
happy days.
Push for Europe because you've got Southampton coming up after that, and Ipswich and Leicester and the likes.
Bang.
Exactly. I think that it's going to be a very tough start to season for Wolves, and in October I think they might be in the relegation zone. But come Christmas time, as long as they're not in the relegation zone, I don't think they need to panic. and I think O'Neill is probably the right man for the job. He's done a very good job so far, and I'll be very intrigued to see how they transition from a 3-back to a 4-back, and I wouldn't be surprised if they bail on that and then have to go sign a centre-half in January, but we'll see. See what happens this season. Wolves could be interesting, could be exciting. I think whether they win or lose, it's going to be a fun summer. A fun season, sorry. So look out for that. But that is all of our Premier League previews done now. 24-25 season is on the horizon. If you want to go and check out the playlist,
5 days.
Then go and check that out on the channel now. We've done one for every single Premier League side. So go and check out all our previews. But that's everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.